Hello and welcome to the Commander's Quarters, your Magic the Gathering source that helps you command your budget. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all their support. Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander's Quarters studio. Welcome to the show. So yesterday, the full Quandrix Precon deck was revealed. We got a ton of awesome cards and some new really exciting commanders. And the most exciting for many is our new bear friend, Ruxa Patient Professor. Ruxa is a bear that is a bear, but also not a bear that helps out bears. Are you confused? Well, please bear with me while I explain. Get it? Because it's a bear. Funny, right? Okay, let's jump into it. Bear puns aside, Ruxa is a very exciting commander that fills a niche that I didn't really know needed to be filled. Ruxa, better known as Teddy Ruxa Spin, is a 4/4 bear druid that costs 2 green. It has whenever it enters the battlefield or attacks, return target creature card with no abilities from your graveyard to your hand. Creatures you control with no abilities get +1/+1, and you may have creatures you control with no abilities assign their combat damage as though they weren't blocked. So when I said that Ruxa is a bear, that's because Ruxa literally is a bear. It's a bear druid. But Ruxa is also not a bear because in Magic, the slang term bear means a 2/2 for 2 that is a vanilla creature. A vanilla creature is one that has no abilities. So Ruxa also helps out bears because it benefits vanilla creatures in multiple ways. So my statement made sense in a roundabout and convoluted way, okay? Now if my Scryfall search is correct, and it very well may not be, there are 98 vanilla creatures in green in Magic. Or I should say that green has access to, because that counts artifact creatures as well. So you can go completely vanilla creature tribal if you want. Again, Ruxa can get your creatures back from the graveyard when it enters the battlefield or attacks, it pumps them and also helps you get damage through with them. Now, although this commander does seem pretty straightforward, there are actually quite a few things to consider. For example, what cards can be non-bows with this commander, and what other cards are actually vanilla creatures, but not vanilla creatures, if you know what I mean. So with all that said, let's jump into some cards to consider for Ruxa. First off, you pretty much can't talk about Ruxa without talking about the original vanilla anthem with Muraganda Petroglyphs. It's an enchantment for 3 and a green, and it says creatures with no abilities get +2/+2. So as everyone knows, this is the vanilla anthem, throw all your hands up. Okay, that was bad. Anyways, with this and Ruxa in play, all of your vanilla creatures get +3/+3. And since your vanilla creatures don't really do, well, anything aside from just having power and toughness, you need to keep getting their power up higher and higher to get more damage through and to be more effective. So including some other anthems in this deck can be very helpful as well, like Gaia's Anthem, Hall of Triumph, and Heraldic Banner. Gaia's Anthem is an enchantment that says creatures you control get +1/+1. Hall of Triumph says when it enters the battlefield, choose a color. Creatures you control the chosen color get +1/+1. So pretty much all the creatures in this deck, the vast majority at the very least, are going to be green, so this basically works the same. And then Heraldic Banner is essentially a mana rock that can also act as an anthem. When it comes into play, we choose green, and then green creatures we control get +1/+0, and it taps for green. And of course, if you want to up your budget a little bit, Beastmaster Ascension is a fantastic one. It says whenever a creature you control attacks, you may put a quest counter on Beastmaster Ascension, and as long as it's got 7 or more quest counters on it, creatures you control get +5/+5. For a deck that wants to be aggressive and attack with a lot of creatures, this is a very easy requirement to meet. And yeah, pumping your entire team by +5/+5 is huge. Now, with anthems or effects that pump our creatures, be careful. Ruxa loves vanilla. Ruxa does not like any other flavor, just vanilla. So even your anthems have to be vanilla. They can only give boosts to power and toughness. So for example, do not include an anthem that gives trample. If you do that, it shuts down Ruxa's benefits. Because if you have something that says creatures you control have trample, now all of a sudden those vanilla creatures are no longer vanilla. They have trample, so they're no longer vanilla creatures, and now they can't assign their combat damage as though they weren't blocked, and they don't get pumped by Ruxa. So you also need to be careful with your pump effects as well. So like a standard Overrun does not work great in this deck. Cards that do work great in this deck, though, are things like Predatory Rampage, Return of the Wild Speaker, and Vitalizing Wind. Predatory Rampage says creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. Each creature your opponents control blocks this turn if able. So this pumps your creatures, helps you kill your opponent's creatures, and still allows you to get damage through because of Ruxa. And then Return of the Wild Speaker is a very flexible card. It says draw cards equal to the greatest power among human creatures you control, or non-human creatures you control get +3/+3 until end of turn. There really aren't going to be many humans in this deck, if any, so yeah, this is basically just going to pump your team, and again, it doesn't give trample, which is a good thing for Ruxa. Or if you want to draw a lot of cards, you can do that too. And then Vitalizing Wind is a game-ending finisher in this deck. It's an instant that says creatures you control get +7/+7 until end of turn. Now, normally because this card doesn't give trample, it's not all that great, but in this deck's case, that is perfect. This makes all of your creatures absolutely massive, and you can get all that damage through thanks to Ruxa. So again, I urge you, when adding anthems and pump effects to this deck, be careful. Many of the typical ones that you might want to consider aren't gonna be all that great because they negate Ruxa's effects. And now that that's been discussed, let's talk about some vanilla creatures that you might want to consider. Green has access to some incredibly efficient vanilla creatures like Colonian Tusker, Leatherback Baloth, and Gigantosaurus. Cards like these are undercosted because they just have a ton of power and toughness and do nothing else. Colonian Tusker just costs 2, but it's a 3/3. Leatherback Baloth is a 4/5 for 3 mana. And Gigantosaurus is a whopping 10/10 for 5. And again, keep in mind that Ruxa and your other anthems are going to pump these creatures further. And with Ruxa being able to help get their damage through, not having trample is actually a great thing. But of course, as I mentioned earlier, we can also make vanilla creatures as well. So, things that make vanilla tokens are fantastic in this deck. For example, Rampaging Baloth is not a vanilla creature. It's a 6/6 with trample, so yeah, Ruxa's not gonna help it out. But it does have landfall. Whenever land enters the battlefield under your control, you may create a 4/4 green beast creature token. So though Ruxa doesn't care about the non-vanilla Rampaging Baloths, Ruxa does care about those 4/4 tokens. Because now every single time we make a token, it's basically a 5/5 that can just get its damage through. And how about Deep Forest Hermit, a 1/1 with Vanishing 3. When it enters the battlefield, create 4 1/1 green squirrel creature tokens, and squirrels you control get +1/+1. So just with this and Ruxa in play, those 4 squirrels are going to all be 3/3s that can get their damage through. That is a total of 12 squirrel power for just 5 mana. And how about Essica's Chariot, a 4/4 vehicle with crew 4. When it enters the battlefield, you get 2/2/2 green cat creature tokens. And when it attacks, you create a token that's a copy of target token you control. So just with Ruxa in play, these are going to be 3/3 cats, and every single time you attack with this Chariot, you also get to make another token of something. So the Chariot might not be vanilla, but it can make you a lot of vanilla creatures. And of course, there are plenty of spells in green that can make you a lot of tokens as well. Bestial Menace gives you a 1/1 snake, a 2/2 wolf, and a 3/3 elephant. And again, with Ruxa in play, that's a 2/2, a 3/3, and a 4/4. So 9 total power across 3 bodies for just 5 mana. And speaking of value, there's Howl of the Night pack, which says put a 2/2 green wolf creature token onto the battlefield for each forest you control. We're playing in a mono green deck, so we're going to have a ton of forests. So even just say that we have 7 forests in play, that's 7 wolves that are 2/2s, but yeah, because of our commander, they're basically 3/3s. So 21 total power for 7 mana, yeah, that's really good. Next up, if you want to stretch your budget a little further, there's Saproling Symbiosis. If you want to pay 2 extra, you can cast it at instant speed, and it says put a 1/1 green Saproling creature token into play for each creature you control. Again, with these token creators and token generators, we can have a lot of creatures in play. This essentially doubles up the creatures that we have, and again, these Saprolings are 2/2s. And with other anthems in play outside of our commander, they can get even bigger. And then another potentially out-of-budget card that would be fantastic in this deck is Tendershoot Dryad. Tendershoot Dryad has Ascend. At the beginning of each upkeep, create a 1/1 Saproling creature token. Saprolings you control get +2/+2 as long as you've got the City's Blessing. Yeah, getting the City's Blessing is going to take absolutely no time in this kind of a deck. So on every single upkeep, we're getting a 1/1 that's buffed by this and our commander. So essentially, each trip around the table, we're getting 4 4/4s that can assign combat damage as though they weren't blocked. That's a lot of power. And speaking of a lot of power, there's Azuri's Predation. It says for each creature your opponents control, put a 4/4 green beast creature token onto the battlefield. Each of those beasts fights a different one of those creatures. Again, with our commander, those beasts are going to be even deadlier, being 5/5s. So that's going to wipe out the vast majority of all of our opponent's creatures and leave us with a giant army of beasts. So although creatures might be vanilla in this deck, they're not boring, they're deadly. But now let's move on to some potential commanders that might want Ruxa in the 99 of their decks. First up, let's talk about Maya Bredeguard Protector. Maya is a 2/3 human warrior that says other creatures you control get +1/+1, and whenever a land enters the battlefield under your control, create a 1/1 white human warrior creature token. So the tokens that Maya makes are vanilla. So including Maya's Anthem with Ruxa in play, those vanilla creatures are now going to be 3/3s. And of course, they're also 3/3s that can assign their combat damage as though they weren't blocked. So those unassuming 1/1 tokens are now pretty deadly. And depending on the build, another one that might want to consider Ruxa is Trostani Selesny's Voice. Trostani is a 2/5 Dryad that says whenever another creature enters the battlefield under your control, you gain life equal to that creature's toughness, and by paying 1 green white, you tap it to populate. So by populating, you create a token that's a copy of a creature token you control. Again, this really depends upon your build on if you want Ruxa or not. If you've got a bunch of token creatures that are just vanilla, then that's great. You can make more copies of them, and Ruxa pumps them and helps them get damage through. But if a lot of your tokens are going to have reach or trample, etc., then it's definitely not worth it. But now let's wrap things up, and I'll give you my final thoughts on Ruxa Patient Professor. Again, a commander that focuses on vanilla creatures was something that I never thought I needed. But I think Ruxa is a fantastic design. It helps make an army of otherwise boring vanilla creatures into a deadly force to be reckoned with. That being said, again, I just want to urge you to please be careful when including things in this deck. Make sure you are paying attention to what anthems and pump effects you are putting in this deck. Overrun is a great pump effect for a lot of decks, but for this one, it just turns off what Ruxa does. Trample is nowhere near as good as being able to get your damage through. Again, Ruxa loves vanilla ice cream and no other flavor. Not even sprinkles. And in this case, Trample is sprinkles, so don't put sprinkles on your creatures, okay? And with that, the show has come to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. So in the comments below, let me know what your thoughts on this episode are, and as always, thank you again, and have a good one.